Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I'm Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Benucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Hello.
Good morning.
How you doing, Phil?
I'm well, and you, Dennis?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Excellent. Yeah, Kenny, you there?
I am slowly getting
Excellent. There you are.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Things are wonderful here. I don't want to say chilly, but cooler than anticipated in New Jersey.
Okay.
You guys on the East Coast, we're all getting good weather. Like we finally got sun on the West Coast. Finally.
Oh, gosh.
Well, we just moved up from Florida, and Florida is experiencing their next to the sun month. Early heat index was up to 114 today where we were living. I know.
That's ugly.
Oh. So I'm in Toronto, so I'm not that far from you, but I'm having we had exactly that the last couple of days.
Yeah.
We were in the like for Toronto in June to be in the 90s with a humidex warning is pretty surprising.
It is.
Yeah.
And we haven't had much heat we're in New Jersey, right outside of Ocean City. So Today is 72. Yesterday it was in the 60s, and it's just surprising, but I'll take it. It's good.
Yeah. Are you
Take it.
Have you moved up from Florida permanently, or is this kind of your summer home to get a moderate heat?
Well, we originally were from the Philadelphia area. Well, actually, we met in Ocean City, New Jersey. That's where my wife and I met.
Oh, okay.
Her mom had a house there. I was a chef, and she was a hostess one year, and it was just magical. But we moved to Florida 9 years ago just because of the gray skies, the cold, and it was just depressing. And my wife never really acclimated. You couldn't have pried my cold dead hands off the door for the first few years. But I told her that. And then her niece had a baby. She's having another baby. She misses her family, her college
everybody's
friends.
there.
Yeah. So we had an opportunity to buy something here last year, and then we decided to sell our Florida place this year, and we sold it to the first person on the first day. So.
Oh wow, that's a nice.
That'll
do. Quick sell.
At asking price. So
not asking that's even better.
Yeah. So that went. So we're going to winter in St. Augustine. We did rent someplace, but I don't know if I want to own at this age. Own two homes.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Wow.
Every year you can go to a different place if you want. Like if you really wanted to, do you know what I mean? Like change it up.
Yeah, that's the thought. And then, and again, right now, the market is not good for buyers. We snuck in last year just before the price boom went really crazy.
Yeah.
So if it drops, I told her if the bottom drops out again, we have an opportunity. We have the cash. I have no problem. But right now, let's just rent and see what happens.
The opportunities might come up. I mean, I think we're all anticipating interesting times coming up.
Yeah.
we're in the hot. Like I'm in Vancouver, so our market is. We've been waiting for a downturn for 20 years, right? There's no downturn coming in this. Well, it should. I mean, it's got to correct sooner or later. But we're all thinking the same: is that there might be some opportunities come. Unfortunately, for many.
Yeah.
But if you're in a different position, it might not be the worst time to maybe buy something.
Yeah. So we'll see. Life will take us in the direction we need to go. That's what I always tell her. So
it's where it goes, right?
Yeah.
New Jersey can't be that bad.
Oh no!
No! Come on, you're in Ocean City. That's
Ocean
like
City?
the best part of.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jersey,
that's what I've heard.
Like,
that's pretty spectacular.
It is. Well, we're actually we tried to buy in Ocean City, and we just couldn't. Everything we bid on, people were paying cash.
Yeah.
And I kept telling the realtor, if I had that much cash, I wouldn't be buying that house. I said I'd be buying something more expensive. I said. This is insane. So we kept trying, we kept losing out. And finally, this is right across the bridge in Summers Point, but we're on the bay. We have a canal that cuts right in front of us. So we're on the water. And
how nice is that? Wow.
Yeah. And the weather is always 10 degrees cooler than on the mainland. So it's like, can't beat it. And we have neighbors. In Ocean City, we would have been nothing but transients. We never really would have known our neighbors, and we certainly
Right.
couldn't have afforded a water view
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
there. So we have the best, and everything's walking distance here. We can walk to bars, restaurants, and just it's a much
I've never
better
been in that
atmosphere.
area.
Yeah.
Never been
Oh, I
into it.
have.
Yeah,
I know
I-
you have because with work in the old days, I guess. but I've never
Yeah,
been
yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up not far from here. We moved from Texas when I was 6, and I lived in Pomona, which is about maybe 12 miles west of here.
Okay.
And so, I'm familiar with the area. And then this is where, when I was young, this is where all the action was, because Tony Martz was here, Bay Shores, and that's where the bands played.
Yeah.
There were two of the places. So, and they
Yeah.
had seven beers for $1. That was the big thing too.
7 beers for $1?
Yeah, they were little ones. They were ponies, but you could go to
Whatever.
yeah, you could. There were 3 bars in the area. There was Charlie's, Gregory's, and the Anchorage, and they all had 7 beers for $1. And and as a band, there were 6 of us. We'd each had $1, and in the afternoon we'd go in, and you would drink forever because they were
You
cheap.
could drink forever.
Yeah,
Yeah, literally.
An American
Yeah.
beer's a little lighter too, right?
Oh
Yep.
God,
Than ours. But
Yeah.
I seriously, I'm going back when I turned 19, like when we were allowed to drink in Canada, right? So that's 35, 36 years ago, whatever the hell it
They were
was.
never 7 for
A
$1.
buck a sleeve
Yeah.
for draft. I remember being like, we were, holy shit, this is how you drink beer.
yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
buck of glass of dirt, you have 7
Yeah.
for $1. I don't care how
Yeah.
small
7
they
for
are.
$1.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was. I
That's
think that was-
awesome.
that was kind of normal, but this was their draw, and they have they call it the Bermuda Triangle. They have T-shirts made.
I love that. I
That's
love that
awesome.
so much.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
I love that area. I spent a lot of time down there because I worked for J&J up near Princeton. And then when I was down there, Guy Fieri did this TV series about all these places, and like a whole bunch of them showed up around Atlantic City and Ocean
Oh, yeah.
City. And so like the J&J folks thought I was crazy, right? Because every time I would go down there, I would drive. It's a couple hours, right? And I would drive down after work
Yeah,
and find one of these places
yeah,
and eat there, right? Like, and in my mind, like they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Look, if I've got to spend all this time in New Jersey,
yeah.
the least I can do is to get some good food, right? Like
Yeah.
because near Princeton, it's fine, but
yeah.
it's just fine. That's it. Like,
It's different up there. It's
Yeah.
more refined palate because the people up there have more money.
yeah,
There's different areas up there that have some really good food, but yeah, the Jersey Shore, the South
gosh.
Jersey Shore, is a completely different animal. And if you want the best cheesesteak,
Ugh.
the hell with Philadelphia, because let me tell you,
Yeah.
something. They may have invented it, but they put it on this white bread Amorosa roll, and I will
Yeah.
get hate mail from Amorosa people. But let me tell you, once you've had Atlantic City bread, this hard, crusty bread that they put
Oh my
all the
god,
subs on, like
Yeah.
like at the White House,
the crunch is just
Yeah,
unbelievable. It's
yeah.
just yeah. I had fish ribs down there. I had all
Wow.
these like just
Oh, yeah.
crazy bonkers
fish ribs?
like fish ribs, Kenny.
Yeah.
Fish ribs. Like it was unbelievable. It was worth the whole 2 hours it took me to drive
There you
there.
go. Well, one of the
Yeah.
items I worked at a restaurant in Ocean City. That's kind of how I met my wife.
Okay.
And I was a chef there on and off for 15 years. I'd leave, I'd come back, I'd leave, I'd come back. It
Yeah.
was always my safe spot. But I would run one of the biggest specials I would run for early birds was I used to get these lobster tails, these slipper tails, they call them. They were inexpensive. They were small. I'd slice them in half and I would bread them, the tail. I'd pull the meat out and I would bread the shell and the tail. And I would serve 5 halves of fried lobster tails.
Oh,
And because the whole thing was on the plate, it came out and it was massive. And honestly, that's a lot of lobster to eat anyway.
that's
So
a
that-
lot of lobster, but
Wow,
wow.
I feel
Yeah.
like keeling over just listening to it, but
Yeah, but
damn, do I want
whatever.
to try it? Like,
Oh, it was, I'm telling you, it was good. It was
Oh.
good. But and then I ran a steakhouse opened up near me, and they started selling some of the things I was selling. So I got annoyed. So I asked my
Start making new
supplier.
stuff.
Well, yeah, I said, "What do you have in a porterhouse?" He goes, "I got a 24-ounce porterhouse." So I says, "I'll take them."
That's a
So-
big chunk of meat.
I know. So it filled the plate, and honestly filled the plate. So I started.
Did you run out of restaurant trays? Because I feel like what you got to do is like bring it out on a restaurant tray. Like these don't fit on our classic plates anymore, so we're just gonna bring you an oven platter, right? Like,
It was
a roasting pan.
Oh my God! It was more meat than one person should humanly consume, but it was a beautiful thing.
A pound and a half of steak, man. That's a big steak.
And that was a good. It was a good.
And I
steak
bet a good
too.
steak.
It was a good steak. Back in those days, meat was still magical before they changed the rankings on it. So
wow. Let's do an intro before I'm drooling already. But
I know, I'm starved.
But for the audience, we've got something a little bit different. We've got Chef Dennis Litley. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Chef Dennis is on with us today. We're gonna get a chance to be able to kind of hear his story and his journey. I like Kenny and I, got the question of, would you like Chef Dennis on? And I think it took us all of like 3 seconds to say yes. You'll discover here that we love food. So anything you've got to say is going to be fascinating. And then I don't know, because you've done so many of these, I'm sure you don't, but we've actually met before when you did some work with Hubba. So Cam and I, we did some work probably 4 or 5 years ago, but we did an episode with you. But anyway, super cool to have you on. We were kind of this unscripted podcast. We focus on, kind of retail, small, medium businesses. And I think the coolest thing about you is the journey that you've taken to build the brand that you've got now. I think it's just, so we'll kind of like slow roll our way into an intro, and then kind of the next, 40 minutes or so is all you, man. Like we want to hear about your story and how you got to where you were.
What makes you, why you do what you do.
Yeah.
What brought you down this interesting path.
Sounds good. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, let's do it. So the show's yours, sir. The floor is yours.
Oh, for me?
Yeah. Go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
That's it. We don't do anything. We're done.
The floor is mine. All right.
We're done. Enjoy the show.
It reminds me of my days when I did Good Day Google Plus. If I had to speak, the show wasn't a good show because my guests had enough to speak about. But yeah, I'm Chef Dennis, known around the world by that. I still don't know how I quite came about that, but no one knew me as Dennis Litley. I started out as Chef Dennis, and in fact, the first conference I went to, I showed up in a dress shirt and nice pants, and I'm standing there, and no one knew me. No one knew me because every picture had a chef coat on. So the next day, I carried it with me, and as soon as I had, the girl looked up, and says, "Oh my God, it's Chef Dennis!" I'm like,
all right then.
All right, I knew what I had to do. Yeah,
apparently this is the way I have to do this.
Yeah. Until more people recognized me on spot. I was a little, oh my God, I guess I'm not as popular as I thought I was, kind of a thing. But yeah, I started out as flipping burgers when I was 12. That was my first job in introduction in the food world. I honestly started cooking because I love to eat. And my mother was a nurse and she would work nights, so she'd be home during the day, which meant she'd sleep through lunch, and so during the summer when I was off, I would start making food, would start creating. And I remember, I think my first simplest dishes were like macaroni and cheese, but with stewed tomatoes in them. And then whatever else we might've had around the house. We had a garden. So sometimes I don't think I put vegetables in it. Let's get real. But
that sounded like a lie between us. Like, seriously, come on.
No, seriously. So no, I might've eaten some fruit from there, but not that. So, that kind of started things off. And then I always tell people, they say, what really lit the magic behind you? What made you want to do this? Well, there was a guy on TV whose name was Graham Kerr. He was the Galloping Gourmet.
I remember him.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and just be transfixed watching him. I would just, wow. I think I was 12 or 13, and he was so debonair, and his accent, and he had that ascot on, that scarf, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. He's definitely not from Jersey, that's for sure. And I'd watch him bring people down from the audience, and when they ate, they would moan. They would literally, you'd look at their faces and they were just ecstasy and they would moan. And I know I didn't really realize what was happening, but I think that's stuck in my brain. Is like, what a great way to make people happy. I did not have a real big artistic flair. I can't draw a round circle. It's just, I tried being a musician, I just wasn't quite that good. So this was something that I found I could do. And not only could I do, but I loved doing. So as the time progressed and I learned more skills, things just started to click. Opportunities arose. My first job really in a restaurant in Ocean City at Cousins was I was running a nursing home. My mom worked at the nursing home as a nursing supervisor, and I had an argument with my boss where I was working and got canned on the spot. And I needed a job. So I went over and said, as a matter of fact, they're looking for someone to run their kitchen. I go, well, I don't have any idea how to run something like that, but I have management skills and I like food. So let's see what we can do. And luckily the woman had just started as the head dietitian, was a genius. She had retired and she had been the food service director at a major hospital and had been the head dietitian at a major hospital. She was just brilliant. She had forgotten things that I would never learn. And she started teaching me and we started working together, and I started transforming the food at the nursing home because I didn't know what to feed old people. So I fed them like normal people, and I started changing how they were eating. That was my first journey. And I have about a 4 or 5 year shelf life, really, in terms of how obnoxious I can be. In my restaurant days, that was the old Chef Dennis. Okay. My wife says I have become the kinder, gentler Chef Dennis now, but
it just took a few years.
Yeah. I'd go in and I knew what needed to be done. I didn't take crap from anyone, and I would get whatever needed to be done fixed. And the first year I was a savior. By the fourth year, I was an asshole. So I was like, I was an asshole when you hired me. I don't know what the problem is.
It just rose to the surface finally. I could see it now.
Yeah, that's all. It says now that I have accomplished everything you ever dreamed you could have accomplished, now I grow weird. So and that's me being honest. But I went from the nursing home. Then a friend of mine, one of my salesmen, said this restaurant is hiring someone. And I went in and I acted like I really had no real skill at all. I didn't try and do that. I just didn't let on how much I knew or anything. And end of the first night, I walked up to the owner, the chef, and I said, Bob, thanks a lot for the opportunity. I wish I had been more help. And he says, yeah, so do I. So I knew this was a good place because he wasn't going to lie to me.
It wasn't gonna take shit either.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Yeah.
So that really, he didn't want me to leave. He wanted me to stay. He just wanted me to get better.
Yeah,
that's all. It was not a bad thing. In fact, my first experience with slipper lobster tail meats, which we were talking about before the show.
Yeah,
he one day told me to make the employees something to eat. So I went in the freezer, and he usually buy things extra for the employees. So I saw this bag. Didn't look like it was anything really good. So I cooked them up for the employees. Oh my goodness. And he just laughed about it. He wasn't mad. He says, well, they ate good tonight, because in those days it really wasn't a pricey object. So he couldn't get mad because I was feeding them $20 a pound lobster at that point. It was probably like a couple bucks a pound, so wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I couldn't do that today though.
No.
Oh, no. But anyway, I just, from that point on, it was a learning experience. They had 2 chefs there. One was a CIA graduate, and it was this big German guy, Norman. And when he first came in, he was like looking down at me because he was first of all, he was a German chef. So he was probably should have been more arrogant than me, at that point I wasn't at all. But he was like, Dennis, do you know how to clean ducks? And I grabbed a can of Comet and a scrub brush. I said, sure I do, Norman, where are they? And he would just look at me like he wasn't sure.
Yeah, is he kidding, or is this person
oh
really
my
need to be here?
God, that's amazing.
And then I'd be setting them up, and I would have them, and I would hold them up by their little legs, and I would dance them across a sink, and I would sing. And he's back there cutting meat, just looking at me like, what the heck? Well, I wore him down. And by the end of the first year, I had him singing duets with me on the line in between breaks. We were doing Teddy Bear's Picnic. We were doing different songs.
That's awesome.
I broke him.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's a
but
wicked story.
but he didn't like to cook. He loved every other aspect of the restaurant. So any opportunity when an order came in and the owner wasn't there, I would slide in the corner and start making it. So I learned everything hands on, and he'd come check and okay, it's all right. The owner would come, he'd grab me by the back of the collar and throw me across the room because he was huge. And I was a big guy. And then the owner would leave and he'd go ahead, go back, go ahead.
That's funny.
So Labor Day, our busiest day of the year at this shore in Ocean City. It's the culmination of the summer. And it's what, the end of the real summer. I walk into work, and the owner we'd been looking at a new property. And when he was climbing up to look at something, he got stung by all these wasps. So they had him pumped full of Benadryl and all things. So he couldn't work. I walk in and they say, guess who's cooking tonight? And I said, who? He goes, you are.
Oh, wow.
So, I know. That's what I was like.
Wow.
Okay.
I got this. Oh.
Yeah, well, I think at that point I was so full of vim and vigor. I was young and eager, and I was like, no problem. I got this. It's like, yeah. Of course, about halfway through the night, I'm going, oh, Lord, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's a whole different world when you're it, eh?
Yeah, but I kept up. And after that point, it was like, well, guess what? Dennis is ready. I still continued training and learning and working on things, but I was okay. I was the saute guy. I was a sous chef. So that was the beginning. That was how I really got in. And I was like a sponge in those days. I always loved to read. And I would go to the county library and I would take out every cookbook they had because there was no Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
There was no real
YouTube.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of bookstores. There really weren't. It wasn't something. Yeah. So I'd go to the library and they said, well, we have these at other branches. We can get them in for you. They'll be here next Tuesday. So I would do that. And I'd take out 3 books and I'd read them and go on. Some of it made sense. Some of it didn't. It was like a basis. This was like my learning classical techniques or different things. It just kind of, and I didn't have a photographic memory, but I remembered really well in those days. Now I don't remember why I walk in the next room.
So but we're all like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I have retained a lot. So that started. I remembered seeing a dish that maybe Marsala Hassan had made. I didn't even remember it exactly, but I remembered it. So I would build on that and I would try and make something, or, something Julia Child had made, and I would build on that. I couldn't remember the exact recipe, but I remembered the premise around it.
So no formal training, just really more hands-on.
Yeah.
And reading.
I went to school.
That's a very different way to do it, right? I mean, when you watch a lot of chefs, it's not sort of the classic way to do it, I don't think.
Well, it was the old classic way. It was as an apprentice. So. You want to think of it as an apprenticeship.
Right.
Although I had more of a condensed apprenticeship than what you would have gone through in the old days. It would have been like a 2 or 3 year, thing that it really moved you from station to station. I never really learned the other stations till later on. I was the saute guy. That was it. That was what I did. And I knew how to order. I actually had gone to school to study business, but I was a food science major. I wasn't in because I needed that to run the nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
I went to nutrition and different things, and I got my associates while I was there. So I had a kind of a basis on that. I had the practical that I was learning day to day, and they were teaching me how to cut meat, how to order specific things they were ordering, how to deal with fish, how, seafood. It was a whole new repertoire for me because, I wasn't serving that at the nursing home, like clams and oysters and scallops and learning how to prepare them properly, the different techniques, grilling, braising, making sauces, all these different things. And I almost wish I had gone to culinary school. I would have loved the opportunity, but in the practical world, like yesterday, I posted my rat tattoo that I had made, and somebody made the comment? Well, it looks very delicious, but from culinary school perspective, none of the pieces are the same size. They're not cut, and it's important to cut all the pieces the same size. Mm-hmm. So I wrote back to him. I said, that's an antiquated kind of way of thinking, and you waste a lot of the vegetable when you have to cut them all the same size because you have to make that into a cube or something. And so you got all that other.
What do you do with the rest of it?
Well, you make if you're
you make a soup or whatever. You can do tons
you make
of
a
things,
stock.
Come on.
but that's, so I said, it's not, my pieces are relatively the same size, but you won't take a ruler to them. They're not going to be the same. And they wrote back, well, it actually tastes better when they're the same. So I just,
it doesn't.
Whatever. It doesn't, whatever.
I just blocked them and moved on.
That's what you do. It doesn't even look better. Like nothing in nature comes in perfect little cubes. I hate when they do that. I'm sorry. I really, that ultra refined just drives me mental.
No, but it's also like there are some things you kind of go look like. I get the training, but you gotta be objective, right? Like ratatouille isn't.
It's peasant.
It isn't a culinary school dish. It's a traditional, it's like
it's provincial food. It's peasant, like you said.
Exactly. It's great food.
It's a stew, and the important thing is not to turn it into mush.
Right.
So as long as you don't do that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
as long as the pieces aren't so large you can't fit them in your mouth. That's what I always would tell my students. I says, cut things in sizes that you can
bite size.
Yeah. So that's all. They don't have to be exact. So anyway, that was, my training just continued, and I learned, and I guess I learned more how to manage that type of crew at that point. Right. I mean, the first years of learning, I had to unlearn some of the things I learned, which was swearing, throwing things, and
how'd that work out?
That was how I was taught, and then later on, I went to another place and found out that really wasn't appropriate. So
it's amazing, eh?
Yeah, or cleaning up after yourself, really, too.
That's the worst part, no? You go throwing things, and then after you're like, wow, this is awkward. Now I got to go up and pick up after my own rampage, right?
But even, keeping the line clean, keeping the stove clean, keeping everything, and I left and I went to other restaurants, and it was a small restaurant. This was a small restaurant, but this was not a big area. And I learned that it was important, since I didn't have people behind me prepping or cleaning, I was like a 2-man show, that I had to keep up on things, because otherwise I'd be there all night. So I did that. I learned different things. I calmed down. Well, I started taking karate, so I calmed down. My instructor calmed me down. It was like, this is not the way.
Oh no.
When I come back from that, my boss is gone. So I call him and said, "Where'd you go?" He goes, "Oh, I went to this company. They have a schools, and I have a spot for you in Flower Town." And I'm going, "I ain't going to Flower Town. What are you?" And I'm thinking flowers like you smell. This was flowers and bread. So I go out there. It's a school, and I go out there and I look, and I go, "Oh no! First of all, this is going to be a pain to get to." I look around. It's old. It's clean, but I mean, it's old. It's antiquated. They had plastic shelving, and I'm like, oh my God, what fresh hell is this? So the nuns are there, and the president and the principal, and they're talking to me, and they're interviewing me, and I'm trying to figure out how to be nicely, tell them thank you for the opportunity, but I can't work here. And principal goes, "And you work 165 days a year." And I went, "When would you like me to start?"
That's awesome. I'm good for that.
I know. As soon as she said that, everything else just went bye-bye. I says, 165 days. If it snows, we're closed. If it's a religious holiday, we're closed. And I get to say, "Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays."
Oh, you killed it, man.
That's amazing.
So I actually stretched my obnoxiousness there, because there were a lot of little kids, and I stayed there for 8 years, which was 1 year too long. But
that's a long run.
Yeah.
But I was at that end. Well, in about 3 years into it, I got tired of hiring temps for events. These were all high school girls. They weren't all well-to-do. There were a mix of blue collar and white collar, but all of them, 100% of them, went to college. And they went to Princeton, they went to Dartmouth, they went to MIT. There were a lot of bright girls, talented girls. So about 3 years in, I said, I gotta start training my own staff. Temps are horrible, and I have events, and I gotta hire these people. Oh, maybe if I just teach some of these girls how to do things. And I started a culinary program and it turned out really well. But the only girls that ended up staying were the freshmen, because everybody else, they had too much to do already. They tried, they wanted to, but they just couldn't fit it in. And I demanded that they had to be there. It wasn't like you come when you feel like it. This was serious. I was teaching you stuff. You had to show up every week it's only once a week. You had to show up every week for class.
Yeah.
And I ended up with 11 freshmen at the end of the year, and we had our major event at the end of the year. And I said, wear black pants, black shoes, a white T-shirt. I'll dress you up. Show you how to wear an apron so you look cool. And I gave them jackets. I had accumulated these jackets from all different places, and I had little jackets for them and dressed them up. And we walked out into the main dining room we're feeding 500 people that night, and the whole room went dead quiet because they knew I was doing something. They had no idea what I was doing, but the girls loved me. I was a good guy. I wasn't causing any problems. So they just left me alone. He's good. He's good. The girls love him. Leave him alone. So I walked out there and they saw these girls dress up as little chefs, and they just went batshit. It was like, oh my God, what has he done? This is amazing. So it became like a hallmark of the school. In fact, when they got their next reevaluation, they got 2 points of excellence. One was for the robotic team, which won national honors all the time, and one was for the culinary team. So it was like, this was really cool. So, and I wasn't trying to make little chefs. I always tell people my goal was to teach them that they can cook at home. They can cook for their family. They can cook for their friends. In fact, the tagline on my blog, that's when I started blogging, because I wanted someplace for the girls to go to get recipes and to interact with me. Well, they would have none of it. They came in, they wanted to see me. They would come in and see me. But other students in the school, teachers in the school, and then, my people would hear about it from them, and they started coming to my blog. And that's when I started, becoming a blogger. And that's when we all have visions of grandeur, dreams of becoming the next pioneer woman. At that stage, there was the elite and there were the peons. Right. There was it was like, there was no really in between in those days. And the elite would allow a photograph, but then it was be gone, peon, be gone. They'd smile nice for the camera. So, and no one would tell us anything. So every time I would learn something, I would share it on my blog with friends. And I joined this group called Food Buzz that was out of San Francisco. And I actually became, after being there for 2 years, they made me the most valuable foodie worldwide because of what I did to share things. That was the award I got from them.
That's cool.
And yeah, no money.
You're like YouTube before YouTube was
before
there.
YouTube.
Yeah, it was well in it because I was helpful. I would always, and I was
right.
the last thing I would say in a post was, "Together we are stronger." A rising tide lifts all boats. Share your knowledge. Make us all stronger together, and it will elevate everyone. And sharing, there was no hiding ingredients, no not telling people. I've always been transparent, and I want them to make something as good as they possibly can. So on my blog, I share techniques, tips, do this. I don't do this. Like I just on something I made with eggplant, I says, everybody tells you to salt it. I have never salted eggplant in my life. I peel it, I prepare it, I cook it. I says, it's never, I think once I had tough eggplant, once out of my whole entire cooking career. And I don't know if that was why. It could have just been bad eggplant. Little things like that. These are just wasted steps. One of my tenets with my blog is, recipes aren't written in stone. They weren't passed down from the mountaintop. They are made to be adjusted to your likes. So if I make something that's got an ingredient that you don't like, swap it out for something or leave it out. Put something in that you like to eat, because to find joy in the kitchen, to create this happiness that makes you want to go back in the kitchen every day and cook, you have to like what you make. And if you're following my recipe and he goes, Chef Dennis says it's got to be in there, so it's got to be in there, and you taste it and go, well, I really don't like artichokes. I don't know, but he said to put them in, and I'm not happy with dinner. Chef Dennis doesn't know what he's talking about, or maybe I'm just not a good cook. I'm not meant to be in the kitchen. But if you leave them out and you go,
just wow, out, yeah,
and you go, oh, this is good, and he said it was okay to leave them out. He says it doesn't
Everything
really matter,
changes, right?
Yeah, and it goes, I made something. I made dinner, and your spouse, your significant other, your kids are going, I didn't know you could cook. I had a woman write me, says her husband, after 25 years of marriage, she made swordfish for my recipe. Says it was the best thing I'd ever made him.
That's so funny.
So, and again,
that's amazing,
it's like,
though.
Yeah.
Right? How amazing is that? Right?
That's what fuels it. I had a woman in in Scandinavia, I don't remember if it was Finland or Norway, write me and said she made my tiramisu and her Sicilian grandfather cried when he ate it, because
How sweet is that though, right?
yeah. So, that's what that makes everything, that and the checks they mail me every month, that makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah, checks don't hurt, obviously.
No, but honestly, I mean, I love,
But you seem to have a knack for the teaching side. Like you seem to enjoy that part. Like that's
I
where
do.
you get your.
I want the listeners to kind of get a sense of what you do now. We have a lot of brands and retailers that listen to us. Do you want to, like, because you've kind of taken this pretty amazing path, and like the blog's amazing, right? Like, so I've followed it for a long time since we met at Hubba and the whole bit, and I love the recipes in there. What do you like? So what do you do now? Like, so because I think you're in a world that I think marketers sort of understand now and sort of don't still understand. And so I feel like it's really valuable for people to understand what you do now, because I think it could really help them.
Yeah. I tell people ask me every day, is it hard to start a blog? And I run a blog. I says, oh, it's crazy hard. Yeah. But it's very rewarding too. And just like with any business, you should never look at a business in terms of how much money you're going to make. You're going to look at a business in terms of how your overall happiness is going to be. I mean, money is definitely good, but if you're not passionate about something, if you're not willing to put the time in, find something else to do.
Right.
And but remember also, we always learn by every failure that happens. A failure is an opportunity to learn. So you have to look at it that way. But starting a blog is never immediate. It's you have to play the long game. And I tell people, someone your age says, now it's a good time to start it, work it, give yourself time, have fun with it, learn all the ins and outs. And then when you're 50, you can retire to an island and they'll just direct deposit your money. It's
not a bad gig.
Right. I mean, and it's something that I never expected to happen. Right. I never knew, we always aspire, but I've gone past my aspirations. I never in my craziest, wildest dreams expected to be this successful. You hope, you dream, you think, oh, wouldn't it be nice? And, I'm not at the top, but I'm close enough. It's just, it's done well, but it's a matter of learning.
How long did it take? Like, so how long? Because I think that's also important, right? Because you see that a lot in social media now. People go, oh, I started, now I have. But how long did it take you to kind of, without giving away numbers in it, like how long did it kind of, before you start to see scale in your blog?
Well, it was the first 4 years are hard to use as a guide because I started it when I was working full time. Okay. And that's why I tell people, those are years that you can really refine what you do. So don't expect to make money. If you make enough to cover your hosting costs, be happy, or some of the costs, be happy. You're going to eat well because you're making all these cool things. You're going to learn a lot of skills. So the first 4 years, because I was not doing it full time, were almost a wash. When we moved to Florida, I think, and I was doing it full time, I think it took me another 2 years before I started to actually see income coming in. And and people, I think my first paying job was $75, and I was dancing in the street. I was so excited about it, and now the joke is I don't put pants on for $75.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but again, it was like everybody starts somewhere. Walmart was a big push for me. I was working with a company, and Walmart wanted me to work for them to do a blog post. And I went, I'm not working for Walmart. So I more than doubled my rate, and they went, okay. And I was like, I'm working for Walmart.
Yes, you're working for Walmart.
And then every month I raised my rate. Every month I raised my rate, and they kept going, okay. And we did this for like 6 or 8 months, and they were happy as clams. And then they just stopped their program they were doing. But I mean, I got my rate up to like something I was like, wow, I'm getting $1,000 now to write a blog post. It's like, this is amazing. Wow. Now I don't work for that either. But everything is relative. As your quantitative numbers go up, your following, because a lot of it has to do with your following. As your skill goes up, just like anything else, you hire someone to come fix, like a shipbuilder says, he knows exactly where to put this thing in, and it's $50,000. He goes, well, the part was only $5. He says, yeah, but my experience was the other $49,000.
Exactly. You put it in.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's basically what you're paying for. Marketers or people from companies that try and hire you don't always understand that. They don't understand your relationship with your readers. They don't understand how much weight maybe your word carries, or how many eyes. Like I had one tool, I was checking Twitter. I was really active on Twitter for a while, and I was getting 20 million possible impressions a week. I'm like, a week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was an average week. Sometimes it was higher. And so these are what I bring to the table. I can get you this many eyes, and learning how to use social media, and the fact that social media, I tell people, is that billboard that you see on the highway every day you pass it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what social media is. You see it, you don't know who's seeing it. 10,000 cars drive by it every day.
Right.
And they look up. Some of them look up, some of them see it. It goes in the back of their mind. And then maybe later on it affects what they purchase or what they do. Okay, but there's no way to really check it or to see who's learned from that. So this is social media. Some bloggers go into it thinking social media should make them money. It's not for that. And if your traffic is coming so sorely from social media, you're doing something wrong. Because as we have all learned with Facebook, like a lot of them were getting tons of traffic from Facebook. Facebook changed. We lost all our traffic.
Then you're jammed, right?
Yeah,
you lost your traffic.
Pinterest was the same way. Pinterest was a gold mine for years. Pinterest changed, and luckily they were always just the third highest traffic driver. Google organic search is what you need to be successful.
Yeah.
Direct traffic, your email list. Any business out there needs an email list, an email subscriber list, because when you get someone to give you their email address, they're allowing you into their home almost. It's personal.
Yeah. It's super relevant. Like, you read those where people go, "Oh, email's dead," and the answer is no, not at all. Like, it's far from dead. Like,
far from dead.
You got to have a list, right? Otherwise, where do you convert from, right?
But I think to your point is the difference is like if I tried to get all the social media off the phone because it was too distracting. It's on other mediums, the iPod, etc. But I don't go through an Instagram, or if you're on Facebook or whatever, you're not going through to do that. You're flipping pages. It's full time. But in an email, if I open up an email, it's to what you said. Is I've had to subscribe. Yeah, that's the way the rules are. So I'm engaged before we started.
Yep.
So your odds are pretty good that I'm going to continue through the journey with you. Especially if your content's good. And that's one thing I sort of hear from you. It took you 6 years of building content and building you. You didn't give up. You just keep plugging. You just keep plugging. You just keep plugging. Right. And I think that's the part of the people have a problem today, is that everybody wants things with, you come out of school, you should be a CEO. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I write a blog. I should have $50,000 checks coming in next month. You're thinking you could, but it ain't going to be in a month.
No. And it does happen.
Yeah, sure. Lots of things happen, but
there's right place, right time.
Sure.
And
lightning strikes.
Something magical happens. Someone mentions you, and then the next thing you know, you're killing it. But when you start a blog, I tell people too, it says, all right, start your blog, start gathering recipes. Don't tell anyone about it till you have like 20 or 30 posts on there.
Yeah.
Right. And then plan on doing at least one a week.
Yeah. Content's hard.
To stay consistent.
Exactly.
Because if you get someone to come into your site and they look and you've got 3 blog posts and they go, well, that's it. They're not going to come back.
They're not coming back. You're done.
Yeah. So don't worry about about it. Right now. I wouldn't even worry. I mean, I would go on social media and get my name. I'd get my name for every account that I could before someone else gets it or it goes away. And then don't even worry about that until you've got enough content for people to want to come and stay. Because if you can't draw them in and get them to come back or to switch to another page, it's going to be a very short visit and they're going to be disappointed and they're not going to want to come back. So like people that were following me early on in my career that I may have lost, if they come back, and getting them to come back is not always easy. Once you lose a customer, it's hard to get them to convert to come back. It's not always the easiest thing in the world. So
It's
you
brutally
want to,
hard. It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's hard enough
yeah.
to keep them with you.
yeah,
Once you lose them, to bring anybody back
Yeah.
is brutally hard.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
impossible in most
No.
cases.
but you want to make sure that you have something to grab on this.
Absolutely.
Like I give
Absolutely.
right now, well, I guess for the last 3 years, biggest success for me was, and this is a something that I learned because it was killing me to do everything, was there were things I did not like to do. I found no joy in them.
Right.
They were sucking the life out of me because I had to do them. So I started hiring people. The first person I hired was a Pinterest person because I just did not enjoy it.
Mhm.
Right.
So I hired her and she was magnificent. She got me more traffic by posting things. She made me, she says, nobody cooks fish. You cook fish. So she started posting them. So I started getting a lot of traffic for my seafood recipes. And then Pinterest died. And she says, Dennis, I could keep taking your money, but there's no sense in it. Let's just call it quits. If it comes back, we'll talk. And it's starting to come back. So I hired another company and they're doing really good for me now. But every time something I did not like to do or didn't do well, I hire someone to help me do it. And, it's a cost of doing business. And
What's a constant theme that we have, Dennis, that we tell people? Don't, instead of learning how to do shit that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
the amount of time it takes you to do that, and you're going to hate every minute of it.
Yeah.
Is, what's the result going to be really with that attitude and that feeling?
But there's also there's a different component too, is you also like the audience that you're after, like you know the audience you're after, and the passion you need to put behind the product that you're putting out, the recipes that you put out.
Mhm.
But when you hire someone, they have the expertise to be able to go out and actually, because I remember going places where they go, can you do social media? I go, yeah, I can do social media. But your audience needs a 23-year-old. Like, I'm 40 something. Like, I could go do it, but I'll sound like and they'll say,
Yeah.
well, can you sound younger? And you go, no, I can't sound
I
younger because
can't.
I'm 40. So like, I can't sound like a 23-year-old because I'm not 23. You need to hire a 23-year-old to tell it in their words, right? So you're right. Like, sometimes you really do. You need to go and find the right people that match with your business, right?
Well, the funniest thing was I was at a conference and they were talking about what was before TikTok, the
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Yeah.
They were talking about Snapchat. And I never understood that because the content disappeared.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Anywhere where the content disappears after 24 hours makes absolutely no sense to me. TikTok at least stays there. But they brought these two 20-year-olds on stage, 21-year-olds on stage to do the talk on Snapchat. And I'm looking at them going, I got clothes older than you. And then all of a sudden, my smart part of my brain went, dummy, all they've ever known their entire life is social media. That's all. They grew up with social media. You had to learn it. You had to learn, you went from a dial to buttons on a phone to having a phone on the wall to now you carry it with you. That's
exactly
all they've ever known. It's their life. So then when my smart part of my brain told me to shut up and listen, I did. And I went, wow, they really know what they're doing.
That's all they've ever had.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, they've never, if you tell them a dial-up phone, they have no clue what you're talking about.
God. They said, if we ever want to shut the world down, we have to start writing everything in cursive. It's all.
It's true. My kids can't read cursive. Mine are, even my 20-year-old struggles with cursive.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But so it's a matter of finding the right person for the job. And believe me, they're out there. Their VAs are aplenty, and not always thinking that you're looking for the cheapest person. You're looking for the best person, because
the best fit.
The best person might take a third of the time that the cheapest person will get done and do it better. So it's again, you're paying for skill. You're not just paying an hour, an hourly rate. But I mean, one of the things I did was I hired an email person because I would send out emails religiously for 6 weeks. And then you wouldn't hear from me for another year.
Nothing like steady content.
And it wasn't that I didn't have new content. I just didn't like doing it, and I'd forget about it.
Yeah.
So I hired this girl, and this young woman, and she had just graduated from college, She was a marketing person. She loved to write, and she was writing in my voice because she was smart enough
Yeah.
to know. Like she just sent out an email talking about how I had moved from Florida and I'm up in New Jersey. Many of you know I got a place in New Jersey last summer, yada, yada, yada. Like she'll even tell I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan because I came from Texas
Yeah.
and this is Eagle country.
Yeah, that's
And
okay. Don't
as
worry
much
about it.
as much as it pains her to talk about it, she will say that she'll talk about Dallas, sometimes because she talks in my voice. When I was traveling, she would talk about where I was in Europe or something and different things that I'd seen. So she's really good and she knows her business. So now where I have a very small email list because I cull out the people
Mhm.
that aren't opening my emails or that are
Yeah.
opening but never click through.
Right.
They're taking up space. So I have 10,000 people on my email list, but I have a 70% open rate. That's like I'm the idea is to create screaming fans. Why should I pay extra every month for people that won't open my email? So if I can get
That's very ballsy of you.
Seriously, that's
Very
it.
ballsy.
Yeah.
The marketer in me is like shrieking.
I know.
What are you doing? I'm like,
it's not like I just kick them to the curb, but if they're not, you can see very simply now what they're opening and you can track them to see where they're going.
Yeah.
It's like it's insane. I still don't really know everything about it because that's above my pay grade and I don't want to learn it. But she goes, "You're the only client I have that is on your email account every day." I says, "Oh yeah, 2 or 3 times a day. I want to see what's going on." I'm involved. That's the anal part of my brain as a chef that wants to be constantly involved in the process.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got my open rate. My open rate just keeps climbing and keeps climbing.
Yeah, because you're doing what
Honestly,
what no marketer would have the courage to do is to go, no, these guys, they need to go away.
Well, if they're not playing with you, what the hell are you having them on your blog?
Yeah,
I know, but it's a numbers thing.
I know.
Well,
well, that's true, and because the market, what the national average for opening email is acceptable at 9% or 7%.
Yeah.
So here I am blowing it out the doors. I think I had 73% last week, 74%, and the click-through rate varies. I can see what they
Chef
like.
Dennis, you're my hero. I love it.
I can see what they like to eat they love chicken. My people love chicken, but I have to post other stuff. I got to draw them out. So, I mean, last week I did lamb and I did pork and it was one of the poorer, performances. I think I had a click. I still had an open. I still had
because you kicked them all out. All the pork guys were waiting. You booted them out.
Yeah, maybe. No, but I post that. But I usually don't post two dogs in 1 week. And from their perspective, lamb and pork was just not doing it for them. Lamb is a death note. So if I don't have and lamb is great if it's cooked right.
Lamb is a tough one though, because it depends where your audience is from too. States and Canada, lamb is people eat lamb, but they don't get lamb. It's not chicken is North America, man. Chicken is all about us.
Yeah. People, I always say people are sheepish about lamb, but
yeah, exactly.
And it's not bad. It's not bad.
Wow,
it's not bad.
Yeah, so that's how we end the podcast. Wow.
Wow. But
I love it.
You have to run your business, and other people will run their business different ways. Yeah. And it's the thing to remember is it's your business.
It's your business. If that's how you want to run it, that's how you run it. If it's working for you, and obviously it is, then that's fine. I'm kind of with Phil. I'm thinking it's still nutsy. That's pretty ballsy to do. That's not. Yeah.
There's one thing though, I think for listeners, one of those things that I keep hearing out of Chef Dennis that he hasn't said, but I think you got to note is he measures everything, right? Because you can now, right? Like in the old days, your example of a billboard, you can't measure squat, right? Like you put it up, and then if you get phone calls, you go, "Whoa, we did it!" Now, whatever you put out, even this, the obsession with I don't put 2 dogs out in a week. I cannot tell you, even on the podcast, Kenny and I, we'll spend time looking at what people download, what people don't download. We got to tune to what the audience wants, because otherwise, how do you know? If you're listening to this, that's a critical part of this is you got to measure. You got to
If you don't
know,
measure, how do you know what you're doing?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
got to know
don't-
what people want. Right?
we still like this. We have people that we only have people on we like the topics, we like the discussion, we like whatever it is. So we're not going to cater to go off track and do something
because,
we don't want to do.
Yeah.
But to your point, and what you both said, I mean, we've had pork and lamb on our podcast too, right? Where you're thinking, well, shit, that didn't resonate.
Yeah, and
for whatever reason.
And sometimes I still think that's something you need to do. It's just you can't do it. It's just like when I would post my travel posts, it was a kiss of death. You know, it was like people wanted recipes from me. You know, and that's why I created 2 different Instagram accounts, because I would post my travel pics or anything that wasn't food, and it would just kill my engagement.
Aww,
and then I'd have to fight.
Cares about your life, Dennis.
Oh, I know. I know.
I mean, at least you glean that out of it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. Cook, Dennis, or we don't want to talk to you.
I know. Well, oddly enough, though, every now and then I will post a picture of myself, and it does really, really well. But it's because it's a very infrequent thing, or I'll do a reel with me talking, and oh my God, I can't believe the traffic it got. You know, so it's not that they hate me; they just want to see pretty pictures of food. I always tell people, bright, shiny. That's what we like, and in small bites of it. Like there's a new tool on WordPress that's called FSRI for a block, and it lets you actually put pictures in instead of text. And I tell people, I said, people scroll, they see text, they keep scrolling, they see pictures, they stop. Ooh, pretty. And it's how the mind's made to work. So you just kind of try and lead people into that. And it's a matter of listening, like you said, listening to what your readers want. You can do those hot maps where you can actually see where they're going. I've never done that, but there's ways to actually see where on your blog they've gone. But I think I get a pretty good fix. Like for a while, major holidays just don't, unless it's like Christmas or Thanksgiving. Most other holidays do not do well for me. People don't think of me with holiday food. I just started to do really good with grilled foods, and I don't understand like baby back ribs. 2 of my better posts, I just did one on baked baby back ribs. Is out of the box is doing real well, and I have one for grilled that's doing real well. And
but that makes sense to me.
But that I'm not a grill guy. I'm not a barbecue guy.
I understand what you're saying. You're not. I wouldn't think of you as a grill guy either. So if I was on the site and I see it, I'm definitely going to look, obviously. But I wouldn't be thinking that's not him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But it's timely though. Like to me, the reason I'll tell you why, because I'm one of those. I opened your baked baby back ribs because one, it's summer season, and 2 is like every regular, kind of love to cook person has maybe 1 or 2 ways to do ribs that is surefire to make it not come out like rubber. Right. Do you know what I mean? And so you kind of like at this point where like we've had enough heat now that we've kind of varied the meats that we have. I might be circling around to like, I got ribs. Shit. I used the one trick in my book and shit. Right. So when you put that up, I was like, I'm looking, right? Because I'm curious, right? Because your track record says, I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So if I want to try something new with ribs, I'm going somewhere that someone could show me how to, someone with a track record that can show me how to do that. Right. So yeah.
I just got a prime rib in yesterday. I'm going to be making prime rib.
Bring it on.
Okay, bring that one on. I'm ready.
Bring it on.
I have not made prime rib in years, but I saw one and I went, oh wow, I haven't made prime. And I don't eat a lot of beef anymore either. As you get older, there's things your diet changes, and I just kind of I'll eat it. There's only certain like my biggest joy with beef was always a hamburger. Hamburgers. I like a good ribeye steak, but that was it. But and again, we were talking about 2 different things, like things I sometimes feel I shouldn't do well on my blog. When I first started blogging, a pitfall that we get into, and I see that with a lot of restaurants that open, is they try to be everything to everybody. They try to do things that they're marginally good at, or they really don't know how to do, but people want it. So they try to do it. So when I first started, I'd see this person being successful doing this and this person being successful doing this, where my focus was here, but I was grabbing over here and grabbing over here. Mm-hmm. And that really hurt me, that the lack of focus.
Spread you out.
Yeah. And, and
Yeah.
I was, again, trying to be, because someone was successful making cakes, I decided that I should make cakes, which I still do, but I make them restaurant style. I try to make tall cakes or,
Right.
different cakes. But, it's a matter of finding your focus and getting really good at your focus. And then every now and then make whatever the hell you want.
Exactly.
Like people ask me, says, how do you come up with what you make? The bloggers, all right, I go on to Ahrefs and I search to see what keywords are going to give me the most bang for the buck. And then I decide what I'm going to make around the keywords. I go, damn, that's no fun at all.
That's a boring way to cook. Why don't you just go to the store and see something that inspires you and cook?
That's how I cook. Or they'll say, how do you decide? I says, well, what would I like to eat today?
Exactly.
And that's,
you walk by the meat counter, you see prime rib. You know what it was? Shit, I feel like prime rib.
But that is the way, so it's two parts, right? It's like you got to do what you love and you got to be motivated by what you love. That's the content of it, right? Because I think that's the part that, because we run into this a lot. Like we go, oh, we do a podcast. And you hear that from everyone. I go, oh, we did a podcast. But we stopped it because we didn't know what we wanted to talk about, right? But and content is one part of it. I think you have to have passion in order to have the content, and then the marketing side is you need people. So when you make what you make, your young lady who's magic with the voice is she goes into Ahrefs and says, okay, he made this just amazing dish. How would people want to hear about it so I can find the most people possible?
Well,
that's kind of the two parts of it, right?
This is, absolutely. This is the second part. Now, the first part, my brain in the beginning of my career decided enough is enough. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cook foods that were good in the restaurant, that were successful, that I like to eat, that I might want to try, or friends coming over have asked me if I could make it. Like, my niece wanted to learn how to make cioppino. So one time, this was years ago. So I said, okay, we can make that. Let's make that together. So, it's successful. It's not crazy successful, but it's a good post. But that's how I pick foods. Or like you said, now I don't buy a lot of meat in the supermarket anymore. I order. The pandemic was good for me in a bunch of different ways. One was I learned I could order a lot of stuff online and get better quality. I buy fish from Alaska now. I buy Copper River salmon. I buy really good beef. Or I buy small farm, pasture raised meats because they're better for you. I don't want to eat crazy meat anymore, so I learned that. And then the pandemic hit. The other thing I learned was, because I was so involved in other aspects of my business, I remembered that I like to cook. I really love cooking. It was like, it was all of a sudden, it was fun again. So that was the second thing. And my business boomed during the pandemic. So, that didn't hurt either. But, it's sometimes we forget why we're doing what we're doing. Because we get caught up in the day-to-day of every other aspect of our business. So you gotta find a way to keep yourself involved in that. Now, I do look at keywords after I decide what I want to make. I don't base what I'm going to make on it, but I'm not stupid. So after that part, Mama didn't raise no dummy.
Exactly.
So after I do that, then there's actually a thing out there called Rank IQ, which is good for food bloggers because it's only $49 a month, first of all. So it's cheaper than Ahrefs or Moz or anything. So, you go in there and it helps you decide what are their keywords or what are their words or how to phrase it. I've gone from my opening phrase, and I was just telling a friend the other day, I would say, my restaurant style dish of shrimp and broccoli is something your family will love to eat, to going sweet, succulent shrimp from the sea, served with farm fresh broccoli. That's
the game, right? And I will tell you, it sounded better anyway, so why not?
Yeah, well, that's what that's again with the chef side of my brain had to learn. Where I was always good at writing descriptions, but it was technical.
Right.
So now we need to use other, I hired a company to help me with SEO, and he said, I was making chicken or something. He goes, you got to put crispy in there, or fried shrimp, crispy. I'm like, okay. And he's giving me, you got to put these other words in there. I'm like, oh, so my brain is starting to assimilate now. I'm going, Mongo stupid. Mongo need to learn keywords. you know, so, but again, if you don't listen to people, if you don't see what other people are doing, doesn't mean you have to copy them, but
And cognizant at least of what's going on.
Be
Yeah,
cognizant.
you got to learn from it. Yeah,
Learn from it.
and find someone in your business
Yeah, absolutely.
that you think is your, before it was like, oh, he's my competitor. I can't talk to him. I can't share secrets with him. Bullshit.
Yeah,
Your
those days are
competitor,
gone. Yeah,
he should be your best friend.
Absolutely.
Because you can both commiserate over the same thing. You can
Exactly.
share ideas. And if he does well, you do well.
It's a
Guess
big
what?
world out there, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Yeah.
all yours anyway.
Yeah.
Sharing's not going to kill you.
Yeah. Sharing is caring.
Sharing
That's
is
right.
caring, baby. Okay.
Chef Dennis.
That was awesome.
We,
Dennis. Thank
we
you.
got to wrap up. Thank you for coming
for coming on.
We really enjoyed
Oh,
this.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
cool.
Anytime you want me back, I'd be happy to come on.
Oh yeah, no. You got updates. You bring them. We'll have you on for sure.
Okay.
What's the best place for people to find you?
Well, my blog is askchefdennis.com. And if you're on social media, I am Ask Chef Dennis.
Okay,
Perfect.
got it.
Simple.
Got it.
Yep.
Check out his ratatouille dish. It's pretty wicked, and he's got a really wicked gelato recipe on there. Just in case anyone's interested.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Okay, take care.
Phil,
Bye-bye.
hang on for a bit. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
Everything good?
Yeah, it was good.
No,
Thanks,
I
Dennis.
enjoyed that. Thanks, Dennis.
My pleasure. All right. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah,
Have a
take
good
care.
one.
Have a
Okay.
good day.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
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 That's
He's cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool,
Yeah,
right?
he's cool. Yeah.
He's got his marketing down.
I think that's the part that I like. So I know, getting the back half of this episode, like him getting into the SEO and that, like just seeing it the way
You need the story
You
up the
know.
front though, right? And then you can
Yeah.
listen to it and then you're thinking, okay, and then so what
Yeah.
does he do? And then you figure out what he does, you're thinking,
yeah,
shit, like you've actually got this figured out
Yeah.
pretty, like you're like, and if one thing, if anybody's gonna analytics, man, look at your numbers. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, I
it's-
love that idea of the chopping of the email because I think that is really, you know what he's saying? No, if you're gonna follow me and you're gonna be on my list, you need to be active. It's nutsy. Like that really is. That's wow.
it makes me anxious.
Yeah, I mean that's a
I
wow.
won't lie. I'm a hoarder.
But
I don't hoard many things in my life, but I'm an email hoarder.
yeah, but I kind of
100%. But
get it.
I get it.
It's just
but
hard to do.
Yeah. I'm an email hoarder.
That's cool though.
Yeah. But it's cool, and I like because I know I geek out when we talk SEO and all that stuff. So like hearing it from him, it's different, right? Because it helps you kind of think. It's a more natural evolution. I think
I like that
when
part.
I
of
go
it.
at it.
Well, because what you guys do, you
Yeah.
guys go down the geeky techie thing.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
he's coming down from a very practical. This is why I do it. Bing, 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 bing. You think,
Yeah.
okay, shit, that makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, not that you guys don't make sense, but
No. I get
it's
it.
different.
But we come into it hot, and then we jump into it at full speed, right? But
Right.
he actually shows you, look, like it's SEO is just a part of the business, and I got to do it. But here's the way I think about it, right?
Right.
Which I think is really
Which I
healthy.
think is
So,
really, really helpful.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Okay, I gotta have a cup of coffee.
Okay, you
I
go.
haven't had one yet, so
Thank you.
okay, buddy.
I'll talk to you
I'll talk
later.
to you in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care, man.
Ciao.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.